Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit Ozabi here, back again with Attack on Titan. We are on episode 2, and in the last episode, the premiere for season 4, we had a really good discussion, long discussion, which Attack on Titan tends to be. They do tend to yield a lot of discussion, because, you know, you can just sit and talk about Attack on Titan for ages, you know, it's just that mystery, that interesting sort of world that they, that all the characters inhabit. You can just talk about it forever, so, yeah, it's always nice to have, these discussions about Attack on Titan, and last episode was no different. One of the things that I didn't talk about last episode, which is not really something that I missed, but it was a one-off comment that was made, quote, when Gabby went up over the trench and acted like she was, she wasn't part of Marley, right? Is the war crime thing. So somebody I'm going to say claimed, they clarified, it's probably a better word, that in the manga they actually talk about war crimes more than they did, in that last episode. I mean, who knows? They may bring it up in these episodes to come, but I suppose that's an interesting thing about the world, and I'm thinking it's probably more so just unofficial, like shit that you really shouldn't do, like in war, which the big one I think was the fact that she took off her band, which signified that she was part of Marley, right? And that, doing that is a fucking, it's a war crime, right? You're acting like somebody you're not to either infiltrate or do exactly what Gabby did, right? Play them for fools. But at the end of the day, I don't think Marley really cares. I mean, the fact that commander guy was just like, yeah, sure, go for it. Like, I think Marley's reputation is in the dirt anyway, and nobody really likes them. So, to be honest, I don't see why they wouldn't just do shit like this. So, yeah. But an interesting little thing about, like, the sort of war crimes and everything. I think there was something about, like, she'd broken, like, multiple war crimes. Or she didn't break multiple war crimes. She committed multiple war crimes. And I don't know which other ones there would be other than taking off the her uniform and everything like that. But, maybe you can tell me. But anyway, yeah, other than that, of course, last episode, the multiple things. So I hope Reiner's okay. I honestly, I don't know how I would feel if he ended up going out like that. But, it seemed the way that it was set up, it wants you to think that he's just died there. We couldn't really see his nape from the angle that we were, looking at, but he did take those, armaments from the, from the battleships and shit, like, head on. So he might be okay. Here's hoping. Other than that, there was a guy towards the back end of the episode, which, the guy was reading a newspaper, right? Had a hat on. He basically looked like Kenny, right? He was dressed like Kenny. But I'm thinking it's somebody that we do know from Paradise. If it is, I have to guess it's Gene, because he's the only one with that hair colour. If that is the case, damn. Gene with long hair, can you imagine that? Look. Other than that, what else? I don't think there's, like, really anything else. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see, like, in this episode, if we go, like, immediately back to Paradise at any point, because I'm really intrigued just to see what they've been doing for the past 3 years. I just want to see how they look like and everything like that. If they have, like, advanced technology wise, because the thing is that with Eren having the obviously they have access to Grisha's notes and everything like that, but also, like, Eren's memories, if they're able to use that information to possibly, like, to make their technology better. I don't know. I mean, in 3 years, who knows? I mean, they made those. What was it? I think it was the last episode where the time jump happened, right? And there was a year that had passed. That they had those Titan, like, they were using logs essentially, right, to fire straight down from the top of the wall to that landed straight onto the nape of the Titans and stuff and taking them out. So that was, like, advanced technology for them, right? Something different, something new. But that's the thing, in terms of 3 years, I still don't think they would have enough technology to go against the technology that we saw last episode, I mean, that's the thing, is, like, the difference in tone with you know, at the start of this season is so different from anything we've seen before. You know, the color palette is a hell of a lot more drained, but then again, they're like, you know, they're in a war zone essentially, right? It's like, it's that World War setting that I just find really intriguing. The perspective of the Malians, everything like that. But yeah, the difference in technology is insane, to the point where the Titan holders are like, they're not as much of a, I mean, they're still a threat, but they can be taken out like relatively easy compared to shit that was happening on Paradise Island, where their technology just wasn't, you know, it was barely up to scratch, even if that, you know. So yeah. Anyway, I don't need to talk about anything else, so we're just going to get into episode 2. Again, I'm going to try and get it here on YouTube. I'm going to do something a little bit different than what I did with the first episode, and it's going to be a little bit faded. Hopefully that makes it easier to edit, because when I had to basically re-edit episode 1 3 times in order for it to actually go out without, you know, being taken down for copyright and everything like that. But you know, so hopefully this makes it easier. You still should be able to see what's going on. But you know, let me know which one you kind of prefer. I think a lot of people probably prefer the way that I did it in, you know, in episode 1. The problem is that it takes a hell of a lot more editing time to try and get it right, you know. So hopefully this helps out a bit. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. So yeah, if for whatever reason I just can't get this episode up on YouTube, the reaction anyway, then what I'll do is I'll re-upload this as a discussion video, and the link will be in the description below. But yeah, there's also a link to the full length as well if you want to watch my reaction to this episode in full. That will always be in the description below for all of my reactions and everything like that. So yeah, go and enjoy that if you wish. But yes, nothing else to really talk about, so we're going to get in episode 2 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Nearly shredded.
これがかの大国マーレの勝利だと言えるのか。それでも我が巨人兵器は当分の間陸上戦においては無敵を誇るでしょう。
For now, yes. I wasn't expecting to have just like an open-air
羽の生えた巨人はいなかったか。
Titans with wings.
近い将来、我々は戦争の主導権を失う。今こそパラディ島作戦を再開し、始祖の巨人奪還を急ぐべきです。
Okay, figured.
お前の任期はあと1年足らずだったな。
1 year.
モルトが私の獣の能力をすべて引き継げるのかとても不安でして。あの忌まわしき脅威、グリシャ・イエーガーの行いに終止符を打つのは、かつての息子である私でなくてはなりません。
Midnight Train. What does that mean?
ジークさんの獣の能力は歴代とは全く違う。まるで話に聞く始祖の巨人だ。王家の血を引いているわけでもないのに。
Interesting.
記憶を継承するお前には知られちまうかもな。俺の秘密を。ケツの吹き方が独特なんだ。誰にも言わない。
Fucking hell.
この3年間、パラディ島に向かった調査船は一隻も帰ってきていない。
少なくともエレン・イエーガーを含む巨人が2体以上調査船に立ちふさがったのではないでしょうか。そして何より敵の脅威は巨人だけじゃない。
Can't believe I. And Mikasa, yeah. Oh, fucking hell. Okay, Reiner's still alive.
そもそも9年前に俺が鎧を継承していればこんなことにはならなかった。兄貴がお前をかばってその辺の巨人に食われることもなかった。
Is that he's Marcel's brother?
兄貴のアギトを返してくれたのもあの女の意志だろ。女の記憶を通してお前を見たが、あれはなんだ。随分と頼れる男を気取っていたようだったが。
おっこ、艦砲射撃を食らった人をいじめちゃダメだよ。
その名で呼ぶな。
大丈夫か。
And that's the car Titan. She's been a Titan for 2 months.
疲れた。
Reiner's here at all.
もう歩いていいの？
ああ、みんなも無事だったか。ガビ。
Yeah, we're seeing themselves there.
そっちの店はまだお前らには早い。
ガビは800の同志に代わり、果敢にも装甲列車に挑んだんだぞ。
Yeah.
奴らを黙らせてきます。
The hell.
今宵だけだ。
Morale is good. Me.
あなたを慕う少女がこのまま鎧を継承すれば、あなたはそれでいいんですか？
今お前なんて言った？9つの巨人を継承する名誉を冒涜したのか？
戦士候補生ファレコ・グライスは己の一族を悪しきユミルの力解放するべくこの地を生涯マーレに捧げます。
おいの巨人を継承したいのか？
ユミルの巨人を継承するのは俺です。
そうだ。お前がガビを救い出すんだ。この真っ暗な俺たちの未来から。
Interesting. Okay, so Reiner wants Falco to be the next one then.
誰が兄に酒なんか飲ませたんですか？
コルトが欲しそうな顔してたから。
まったくピークちゃんの思いやりを車両中に吐き散らすなんて。
いいじゃない。担がれるうちが花だよ。実際大活躍だったんだもん。ピークさん。
Vice
もし
Chief.
副長が俺と同じ考えでエルディア人を戦争から解放したいんだとしたら。
It's interesting here that we're seeing, like, the Eldians look after each other, you know what I mean? They're really fucking humanizing this side.
ジーク、じいちゃん、ばあちゃん。
ライナ、
Oh.
疲れたでしょ。
Wow, Reiner's family.
戦的来所はっちまったエルディア人だ。弾とか爆弾が降ってくるからな。ドカーン
What a prick.
あなたは腕章が逆だ。大丈夫ですよ。
Has to be on your left.
と良くなりますよ。
走行列車は脱線してひっくり返った。
Is that someone that's just infiltrated? I didn't even think. It's on the wrong arm, dude. That might be someone that's infiltrated.
一族から2人も戦士を授かるなんて誇りに思うよ。
でもライナ、お前でさえ島の悪魔から逃げるのがやっとだったんだろ。
So Gabby is same family as Reiner then.
いや、話せることもある。連中はまさしく悪魔で残虐非道な奴らだったよ。入隊式の最中、突然芋を食い出した奴がいた。そんな悪党だが、さすがにまずいと思ったのか、芋を半分譲ると言った。しかし、差し出した芋は半分には到底満たないものだった。奴らに譲り合う精神などないからな。自分のことしか考えてねえ不真面目な奴に、突っ走るしか頭にねえ奴に、何があってもついていく奴らだったり、それにいろんな奴らがいて。
What an interesting, like look into his mind, you know? Like,
悪い奴らでしょ。
they didn't
そうだよガビ。島にいるのは
they didn't seem like bad people when he was talking about it, you know?
阻止するのは私たち善良なエルディア人でなくてはならない。
The fuck was that?
ガビ、元気がないな。
島から一人だけ帰ってきて別人みたいになったって。
Oh yeah, just someone suffering from the PTSD.
おはようございます。
マーレ軍の人は？
この部屋にはいない。お茶ぐらいたまにはいいだろう。マーレが弱ればエルディア人はより生存権を脅かされる立場になる。これは民族滅亡の危機だ。唯一の解決策は早急に始祖の巨人とパラディ島の資源をマーレに収めること。物語には語り手が必要だ。それをタイバー家が引き受けてくれるそうだ。
This is the person that's gonna write.
巨人を管理するタイバー家。
What?
何より巨人大戦でフリッツ王を退けた一族として諸外国に顔が利く。世界は耳を傾けざるを得ないでしょう。
気持ちはわか
Warhammer
るが
Titan.
タイバー家も祖国マーレを憂いているんだ。大事。諸外国の要人や記者を招いてタイバー家は宣言を行う。1年以内にパラディ島を制圧すると。密室でこの内容なら問題ないだろう。ジークの一言がなければこの部屋にはいないか。俺はまた行くのか、あの島へ。
Fuck. Shit. Okay, episode 2, Midnight Train. interesting. Oh, we got so much stuff here to talk about. Oh my god. Could be another long one. Okay. Where do we start? I guess we just kind of go from the beginning, and then, you know, once I start getting to certain things, they'll connect to other, other parts of the episode, and we can start fitting things together. So, right, we started off in a sort of like a boardroom, or at least what was supposed to be one, for a bunch of influential people in Mali to obviously talk about what their next move is. And that, you know, humanity is essentially at the point of surpassing Titans. Of course, we already talked about that in regards to what happened last episode with, you know, technology essentially on the verge of getting there. But it is, to, like, you know, worth noting that they still have the advantage, you know, at the moment with the Titans that they do have. You know, it's because the idea that they can obviously control their Titans, it's not like their plans, like, or like, you know, beforehand, like going into a battle, you know, they can obviously plan things out, and you know, that's still you know, like on their table. And let's be honest, the Titans are a hell of a weapon to, you know, to hold. So, you know, even though humanity's on the verge of it, it's still not quite there yet. But you know, the humanity is starting to pose a threat. One of the guys saying, "What do we not have a Titan with wings?" It's such a, that's an interesting concept, isn't it? Like, of all of the, I guess, different special Titans, there isn't one that can fly. Which, yeah, it's just the thought of one. You know what I mean? God, I couldn't even imagine what that would even be like, a flying Titan. It's just a weird concept, isn't it? But I just thought I'd write it down because I thought it was funny. It was confirmed that Zeke only has 1 year left. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'd feel like if there's any sort of time elapsed within this final season, it's probably going to be about 1 year, if, like, you know, at least, I'd say. So yeah, it's just going to be a case of whether or not he dies via like a paradise, or if he manages to actually hand it over to Cold. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, he did say that he was unsure that Cold couldn't harness the full power of the Beast Titan, and that there's some reason as to why he's so good with it, which I thought was interesting. Of course, Zeke, you know, in the scene after that, apologized to Cold for, like, furthering his agenda, obviously to try and get this point across that we need to spread this word that things are happening that actually isn't. You know what I mean? Like this propaganda, you know, thing of spreading the word to the world that, you know, Mali are going to end up having possession of the founding Titan and everything like that. Of course, we had a bit of discussion about that in the last episode about the Mideast allies, and the reason why they decided to start a war with Mali in the first place was, you know, clearly they had information, whether they had spies on the inside, that, you know, obviously suggested that Mali doesn't have the founding Titan. They've lost the Colossal and the female Titan. So they were kind of, the Mideast allies were thinking they were there for the taking almost. You know, they were weakened, and that's why they went to war with them. Of course, it didn't end well for them. But it's an interesting. I think that what has been really apparent in these last 2 episodes is that perspective. I think the perspective of characters, obviously depending on who they fight for and everything like that, that even though Mali won that war, you still have the guy in the boardroom basically saying, like, so why does it feel like we haven't really won? You know what I mean? It's interesting that, you know, they're, from that one guy's perspective when he was talking about it, was like, what happened to the time when we were heroes for getting rid of the Eldians and whatnot? But what they don't seem to realise is that they're using the power of the Eldians against the other nations of the world. So of course, as would, you know, as, you know, life and past and history, even in our world, would dictate that, like, they've become the new menace, if that's what you want to call it. Like, you're harnessing this power for yourself, and you've even admitted to, like, you know, that you are, like, trying to take territory and everything off other people. So of course they're going to start looking at you like that. So the idea of, like, you know, these once heroes who, you know, conquered the mighty Eldians, you know, that you are using their power for your own gain. So, you know, it's just, it's one of those things, like, that perspective of, like, it's almost like the Malians can't see past that clear intention to be top, like everyone else did. You know what I mean? Like, everyone else does. Like, you know, history's taught us that, like, all of them are this, like, you know, all nations are generally the same. You know what I mean? It's always a case of, like, war against other nations, or you know, the factions, tribes, anything like that. All's to basically put them on top. And I think that this show's doing the exact same thing. I don't think it's any different. It's showcasing, especially in this episode as well, like the humanizing element of the Eldians in Mali, which means it's going to be tough when, you know what I mean, like, when they inevitably, like, start fighting against the Paradisians. Because for so long we've been with the Paradisian group, you know what I mean? And there was always that thing with, you know, Reiner, Berthold, Annie, that, you know, for example, the one scene where they basically killed off Marco, essentially, right? And it's just like, it's horrible, what they did to him, you know what I mean? Even though they didn't like it, there is that there's just this interesting thing with, again, like, I come back to perspective of watching the Eldians come back from war, right? And they go, like, it's like you can see the separation between the Eldians and Mali, right? Like, it's so interesting that the Malians are just using these people, and you see a clear sort of kinship with the Eldians, and it's like you feel fucking sorry for them, because they've been indoctrinated into Malians' ways, and just seeing that, like, sort of just kinship to try and, you know, better the you know, do what's best for them, you can sympathize with that, you know what I mean? So this episode, I think, should really drive that point home to a lot of people that, you know, in the past, like, you know, I have before, giving, you know, the likes of, like, Berthold and Reiner and Annie, giving them shit, essentially, right, because of the horrible things that they have done, you know, but it's all a matter of perspective. I mean, you know, I don't think that people were wrong to think that way about Reiner, Annie, and Berthold, because at the end of the day, you can't just be entirely objective about everything. I think the point is that the reason why Attack on Titan is told this way, the story's told that way specifically to give you that idea of the Paradisians are humans and they're being attacked by monsters, right? The Titans. That's how it starts out. So you're supposed to follow that group and understand and empathize with the situation that they're in, which is why they are the good guys and the people who have come here to destroy us are the bad guys, right? It's told that way on purpose, so that when it eventually does get to this point where we're, you know, episode 2 of season 4, that you're starting to see it now from the perspective of the other side, and the reason why the Eldians specifically are basically being used is what it comes down to. I mean, if you, all you need to do is just look at it as the Malians are essentially using Eldians to fight among themselves. That's pretty much all it is, and it's for Malians' own gain. It's not for the Eldians' own gain. You know, even though the Malians will, you know, give them some kind of hope that if you go through with this mission and get the Founding Titan and everything back, that we'll set you free and you'll no longer have to be in these internment camps. I just refuse to believe that Marlians are anything like that. You know what I mean? I just, they want to keep control. That's what they do. So, so yeah. The perspective angle that they're going with in this season is definitely interesting, but that's the thing. It's going to be bittersweet when we start getting into the meat of fighting and stuff, because, I mean, it's one thing that back in, like season 2 or whatever, or like even season 3, when you have, even in season 3, you get more of an idea. You do start to sympathize more in season 3 with like Bertolt and Reiner and stuff. Because it's sad. It is sad when Bertolt eventually does, like, die. It's like, fuck. It's like, that kind of sucks. But then, I mean, I guess in terms of Zeke, like, you wanted Levi to just fucking kill him off right there. So it's different for, but we sympathize with specifically Reiner and Bertolt and Annie and whatnot, because you see little bits of their humanity poking through, right? It's not just that they are monsters trying to do this. You do see that. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, this episode in particular, I think really does drive home that, like, humanizing aspect of a lot of them. Like, we got introduced to Galliard and Piek this episode. Piek is a woman. I would have never even... Like, it even caught me, my own brain caught me off guard reacting to that moment, because the first thing that I noticed wasn't the fact that she was a woman, it was the fact that she came in hobbling with a crutch. And that, she said that she'd been a Titan for 2 months. I didn't even register that she was a woman until, like, she got onto the bed, I think. And I was like, wait, she's a woman. You know what I mean? My own brain caught me off guard there, which is interesting. I think the idea that, like, this has happened before in Attack on Titan, where, like, for some reason, strictly this show, because it is told so well, I tend to really focus my brain on little details, so obvious things become less apparent, right? I've done that before with, like, episode 20 for season 3, for example. So if you know about that, you know. But, in other times when it's like, oh, Levi Ackerman. Never even crossed my radar until, like, I was editing the video and I was like, fuck! It's like, how did I miss that? So it happens from time to time in this show. But, like, yeah, so very humanizing these characters, like the Carp Titan, like, as, like, she's a very nice woman. You know what I mean? Piek. Like, I'm really digging her for some reason. Like, she's really, really nice. It's just something I wasn't expecting. And then Galliard, I think Galliard seems more kind of, what's the word? Eager, I think, to he seems like he's got a bit more of a drive, and I think that probably comes down to the fact that he's Marcel's brother, which is another thing that came out that was, like, confirmed. So Galliard ended up getting the Jaw Titan back in his family, which is interesting. But there's obviously that, like, bit of either, like, regret that, there was a bit of, like, not a lot, but a bit of animosity towards Reiner. I still think that they're okay, but there was the fact that he said, like, if I'd gotten the Armored Titan, you know what I mean, Marcel probably still be alive. So there is, like, that, like, sort of, like, regret, a bit of resentment there. Which actually, if you look back to the previous episode 1, there was a moment where Galliard came in and saved Reiner's life, and they looked at each other. And I guess watching that and knowing now exactly why that was, it makes sense. Because Reiner was unable to like Reiner was, from Galliard's perspective, Reiner was unable to protect Marcel. But if you remember back to when Emir actually killed Marcel, Marcel was the one that pushed them away. You know what I mean? So it's like from Reiner's perspective, he's probably looking at, you know, Galliard coming in. And I wouldn't be surprised if in Reiner's head he's thinking of like that moment when Marcel like pushes them away kind of thing. It's like one of those things like that, you know, sacrifice and then saving. It comes with their family. You know, like they do anything, I suppose, for their, you know, for their family and friends and everything. You know, so but it's. God, it's just really humanizing. Like that there's it's just very distinctive when the aliens are coming back. Like they're basically, you know, they open up the gates to the internment camp and you've got all their families just waiting there in this, just in the conditions that they live in, because they're, you know, they're treated badly. Like they're second class citizens essentially. You know what I mean? They're told all the time about, you know, like, you know, by the Malians that, you know, you're monsters all the time. So it's very harsh. But you so this is the thing, is like, fuck. It's mad. So what else? I think I missed talking about Cold and harnessing the full power of the Beast Titan. That there was something that Zeke obviously was talking about, but didn't Cold say something like, because you don't have, it's weird that Zeke has access, like, you know, has all of this power with the Beast Titan, yet he doesn't have royal blood. But he does though, right? Because he's Grisha and that Fritz woman's son, and she was royal family, right? I'm sure that's what it was. Please correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, but I'm sure that's what it is. So he does have royal blood in him, and maybe that is why. So it wasn't just a case of like, because originally when Zeke said that I don't think Cold can harness the full power of the Beast Titan, I was wondering if he was just talking about like, you know, like the idea that maybe Cold just doesn't have the drive that Zeke does, you know, like to go out and like really push forward, like the determination to go through with what they have to do. But it seems like it's obviously more legitimate, like sort of power to you know, deal with that. But it's interesting, actually, I never even made the connection that because Eren is obviously Grisha's son, right? But he has the Attack Titan and the Founding, you know, specifically he has the Founding Titan, so he's the coordinate, that he's able to basically order Titans to do what he wants. But that Zeke also has like he has this innate ability to create Titans, right? And even when we first met him in episode 1 of season 2, he was ordering that one Titan to not bite down on Michael, his name was, I think. Somewhat, yeah. Mike, that's the one. And it didn't listen to him, but Zeke was like, huh? It's like, that's weird, like, you should be listening to me kind of thing. So there is something there that is slightly innate about what Zeke is able to do, which I think is what they were talking about. Which is interesting. I would love to just get a description of everything that the certain Titans could do, you know what I mean, in terms of the Beast Titan, because other than the fact there's just like, you know, he's very gorilla-ish. He's got this massive arm span which allows him to obviously, you know, throw things at immense distances and with so much power and everything like that, and he looks like a beast. But, you know, the idea of like, what is the correlation between a Beast Titan and being able to order Titans, you know what I mean? There isn't a correlation there other than the fact that there is that connection with Grisha to Eren having the Founding Titan. But, you know, it's just it's an odd one. It's a very odd one. Oh God, what else? I guess we'll go back to Piek. Piek, so she said that she was 2 months in the Cart Titan form, which is interesting, and I wonder why. Like, what's the reason? Is it just like, I'm guessing it's because she, well, when we last saw her, she had a bunker on her back, that maybe she was like legitimately just planted as like a fortress during the war. So if any of the Titans, like had to stick around, it would most likely be Piek as the Card Titan, as like a line of defense. You know what I mean? Because if you think about the idea of like, they have trenches there, right? And there's the fort up top. They both have to remain vigilant in case there is an attack coming. So I'm wondering if she had to stay as a Titan for 2 months, just as the bunker, and just wait it out. But it's interesting that because of that, when she comes out, she is affected human-wise. That like it legitimately affects her way of walking, which is interesting, because I'd figure, like, I guess the idea that in her mind, because she's obviously looking through the eyes of a Titan the whole time, but her body isn't in that position, like, on all fours in the back of the nape, right? So it's not her human body that's being affected, but I wonder if because she's in there that long, it's kind of like if you were in a coma for even 2 months and you would try to get up, you'd probably struggle to walk. So I wonder if that's just basically what it is there. The idea that like she's been in that just sort of position, like hunched over the whole time, might have like had a placebo effect on how she on how, like her ability to walk, but also the fact of like her human body hasn't been active for 2 months. So, it could be either or, could be one or the other strictly, but I think it probably makes more sense the fact that just her body hasn't been active for that long. But I think there probably would be a little bit of placebo in there, just for the fact that it's on all fours for 2 months. It probably would affect you that way. Yeah, so Reiner, he came out, he talked to the kids, and like I was talking about in the last episode, about how it's a very similar situation to how you can imagine Reiner, Berthold, Annie, and of course like Marcel would have been selected as well. Like they would have to go through similar kind of tests, I suppose. The one thing we don't know is that they were really in a war at that point, so it wouldn't be the exact same. But the fact is that there is that correlation there that, when being tested and being a warrior candidate, that like Reiner obviously sees that group as the same as them. You know what I mean? It's a group of 4. And everything like that, and he's seeing his group that left to go to Paradis. And in this episode as well, like a really cool episode, I think, for Reiner, seeing his perspective, especially considering the fact that that split personality thing is still there, like it's still apparent, because you're seeing. I'll talk about the one where he had the perspective on Paradis and everything like that before, but like when obviously he saw the group of kids and he was like, he's like, stop. He's like, because he's thinking like if they go there, it's almost like he's thinking it's going to end up being the same thing, and he's got to know that they're going to be more prepared this time, as they know a hell of a lot more at this point. You know what I mean? So they're more dangerous. But he's like an older brother almost to them. I know that he's cousins with Gabby. That was a thing that was brought up as well, is that they're the same. So Gabby Brown. So yeah, they're family members. And it's cool that we're still seeing that side of Reiner that still hasn't, it hasn't like dwindled or like just been a one-time thing where we saw Reiner in that phase. But I'm glad that like it's still there. It's similar to how like when the aliens were coming back through in this episode, that they have like, you have a lot of them that still have that PTSD. I think what Reiner does as well, because he spent so long thinking he was a soldier, and then realizing, oh shit, I'm a warrior, and then what is supposed to, like, what is real and everything like that. The things that Reiner was suffering with, growing to when he was, I think that was the best scene for this episode, was when he's sat around the table with his family, and he started off basically giving them what they all know to be, which is the fact that the Paradisians are devils, and you know, they're a horrible people. And then he's like, he goes into like just this zone where you can imagine him like it's all coming back to him, like in his head he's flicking through everything like of when it started, and that like, you know, he's going through. He talks about, you know, Sasha with the potato and everything, and how it wasn't truly half, which is like, that was like a funny thing that I didn't think would be brought up again, was the fact that Sasha said he has half, but it definitely wasn't half. You know what I mean? I thought it was just like a funny character moment for Sasha, because she's a bit on the, you know, on the gluttonous side. But yeah, brought up again. But it's something so simple and like comedic. But I think for Reiner, it's like light-hearted, and then he's going through the individual characteristics of the other, you know, cadets that he grew up with and actually considered friends. That in that mind, his split personality is basically like telling him exactly what he experienced. And it's just that juxtaposition of everything that the Malians have beaten into these people is essentially a lie. You know, like, and what Reiner is saying is the truth. And it's interesting because Gabby, I was talking about in episode 1 about how I thought that Falco, there was that whole thing of like Falco seems like a good kid, and that we could be looking at this season being like, you know, the Paradisians getting across the message that we're not devils, it's the Malians that are, kind of thing. It could be something like that. And that the kids are kind of still at that age where they're impressionable. And that could be like a thing in this season where, you know, the kids are starting to go back and forth between what is actually right and wrong, what is true. Have the Malians been lying this entire time, kind of thing. And that we saw Gabby for a second after Reiner was talking about that, when he had his monologue, that Gabby was like I thought he said they were devils, and Gabby had a moment, and you saw I think Reiner's mother immediately get up, like, in shock, because everything that she was hearing in her mind wasn't right, because she's been indoctrinated by the Malians to think another way, that they no, like, that is not true, like, we despise them, they're devils. And that she immediately went over to Gabby, and it's that chain of like the Malians given like all of that, you know, fake information and propaganda to Reiner's mother, and the mother giving it straight like to Gabby to keep her mind focused on that. You know what I mean? It's a powerful scene, I think, and it's horrific just to think that, like, you know, like, all of this is just a play by the Malians, really. You know what I mean? And that's why it's tough to think that we're going to just have fights between these people that shouldn't be fighting, you know? God. It's just a really, really, really cool scene. Speaking of when the, as well, like, when the Eldians are coming in, the PTSD lot, there was a guy who had his armband on the wrong arm. And we didn't see his face, so I don't know. I don't think it was Gene this time. Hold on, let's see if I can find it, because it was interesting, to say the least. Where are we here? Where is it? It's around here-ish. Here we go. Just to get it up. Here we go. Yeah. So I don't know. It's someone with really long hair. The problem is that we don't know what they fucking look like. The Paradisian lot. So this could be anyone. Shit. I can't really tell because it's like a profile angle as well. It's like from the side. So like, I don't know, it could be Levi. God, I'm gonna be so wrong about this, aren't I? But I just feel like that has to be something. Why else would you have that fucking scene in there if it was someone that had the armband on the wrong... Why would you have it on the wrong arm? You didn't see his face. We also saw what I believe to be Jean last episode. And he could be in Liberio as well, like if that's where it actually went back to in the last episode. When they were getting the newspaper, he was getting the newspaper, he could be in Liberio as well. If that's the case, dude, they're here. They're fucking here, dude. They're just biding their time if that's the case. But fuck. Like, the thing is that the only thing I'm thinking of, if it is, then I'm kind of disappointed that they failed to put the armband on the wrong side. You know, like, shit. It's like, they should have realised this, you know? I expect better, you know? But, like, then again, if that hadn't happened, you would never... Like, that's the telling point, isn't it? That, like, that's not one of them. Like, that's not a Malian... or Eldian fighter fighting for Mali. That's someone that's come in that doesn't have the clearly the know-how of what arm the armband has to be put on, you know. Fucking hell, that's Jesus. Can't believe they're here, dude. That's it though. I mean, in 2 episodes we've possibly had 2 Paradisians there. So now, episodes going forward, I'm just on the lookout for like anyone that looks suspiciously like a Paradisian character, you know. God, insane. Yeah, so talking about the armbands as well, like there was the ones I've seen are red and yellow. I think the red have to do with the people who are the Titan shifters, and the yellow is everyone else, I think. I could be wrong there, because I know that you know, like the likes of Gabby and whatnot has it. I didn't see what like anyone else was really wearing, but I did notice that the red ones kind of lined it up with, like, you know, Galliard and Piek and Reiner and whatnot. So I think what was also interesting as well is that, like, I think, was it Galliard's parents also had red armbands. So I don't think it's like strictly the ones who are Titan shifters have it, but I think also like the family members of that do. So that is still, like, I guess, a hierarchy of people who, you know, you don't, I guess, you know, you don't particularly like talk down to those who are like parents of a Titan shifter, I guess, you know. So there's like almost like a hierarchy embedded in the Eldians as well, that are under Marley. So yeah, there was a moment on the train where Reiner wanted... I mean, what he said is like he almost wants Falcao to inherit the Armad over Gabby, and whether that's strictly just based on the fact of Gabby is a family member to Reiner or not, I don't know. But what, I mean, essentially what he was saying, he was basically quoted as just saying, like, you know, like, you've got to save her from this, right? So that she doesn't have to go through all this shit. You know, so whether it's like Reiner's strictly wanting Falco to inherit the Titan for that reason, or just to keep his mind ticking along in that sort of fashion, like keep determined, keep focused on what you have to do. It could be that as well. But you know, we'll wait and see with that. What else? The Tiber family. Warhammer Titan. So this Titan is known as the one that essentially made King Fritz flee for Paradise, and that's the reason why they have so much influence abroad, is what they were talking about, and that people will listen to what they have to say, so their word is above any other Titans, which is interesting. The fact that they have so much influence is really strange, because we know that only Eldians can get the Titan power, right? Like, only Eldians can become Titans, right? So why is it that they have mansions and things because even like the Titan shifter, the other Titan shifters, like the Armored Titan and whatnot, like, you know, they have certain influence, but I didn't think they would have, like, you know, like, I don't know. They seem to have more influence, which is which is interesting. But also the fact of, like, right, so we go back to the fact that the Warhammer Titan, if it's because they have the... I think I have a reason for why this is, why they have more influence. And I think it's because the Warhammer Titan was one that went to Marley's side immediately. So I remember when they were talking about the story of the war that obviously broke out at one point, and the reason why Marley now has control of all of the Titans is because there were turncoats and the Eldians that were Titan shifters, and I think they mentioned that I can't remember if it was just one that changed sides specifically, or that, you know, there was a multitude of them. But that you know, I can imagine the Warhammer Titan being one of them that did immediately, and maybe that's why they have so much influence. You know, they were the main reason why, if King Fritz did leave, that they were seen as heroes, and that with the Warhammer Titan being the main Titan to sort of make that happen, to push that forward, that he would, or that the family that have access to that Titan would be held in higher regard than the rest of them. So yeah, we'll see. The not in this room thing was interesting. There was a bit of concern, I suppose, with that quote, and I don't know where the concern's coming from, because whilst the Marlians were obviously listening in and talking about it in another room, they shed some concern, but also Reiner was the one that actually finished that quote. Like, it came back to Reiner, and he was like, not in this room. So there's something there. Either it's Zeke is trying to... Either Zeke thinks that they're all alone and the brass, the Marlians, aren't listening in, or Zeke knows they're listening in and doing this to further his agenda, which Reiner picked up on. But whatever the concern was there, I don't know who the concern is most apparent for. You know, so you know we'll see what happens with that going on, like going further into the season. What else? Yeah, and the last thing is that they were sending Mideast allies free as well. It seemed like Udo pointed it out, where he was just like, they're going to keep, you know, they're just going to, you know, basically spread the word that, you know, the Eldians and whatnot are monsters and everything, and we're monsters. And Udo wasn't a fan of that. He didn't like that being the case at all. But it seems, again, this is another thing with the perspective thing. The Eldians see it differently. The Marlians, I think, are clearly setting them free so that they spread the word about how monstrous they are, so that they won't come and attack. You know, I think that's basically what the Marlians are doing. So again, like, it's that just juxtaposition of the Marlians and the Eldians. You know, the Eldians are basically fighting for them, but the Eldians still see it as just bad shit. Whereas the Marlians are, again, it's another example of the Marlians using the Eldians against themselves, like, you know. So basically that's what I have. I don't think there's anything else. There probably is. I mean, there's always something, right? That I do end up missing. But if that is the case, I apologise. I may have picked it up in the editing. If I do, I'll put a note saying that I did pick up on it. If not, you know, get all of your comments in. I want to thank you guys as well for the all of the love shown in the first video, the first episode as well. You know, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are the best. You know what I mean? You show me a lot of love. You know, so I just want to show that you lot back to you as well. But yeah, that's all I got for episode 2. So excited to get on to season 3 next week. But that is all I've got. So thank you for watching. If you do want to support me, then I do have a Patreon page. It basically has a bunch of different tiers and rewards there, like early access, $5 a month, gives you access to shows a week early. There is the full length, which gives you access to full length reactions. You know, so for this episode and for every other episode of everything that I react to. You get a full length, and then there's the exclusive tier, which gives you access to movie full length reactions as well. So you can go have a look at those and see what they offer. There's also a link to the Discord if you want to get over there. Then feel free. But that is all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.